Now we transition over to our Mariners, who are finally playing games. They are spring training games, and they don't really count for much outside of the development of the team and figuring out some things. But they're fun to look at. So we'll look over at those. The Mariners over the past week played 3 games down in Arizona. You can see technically they had the at and away sort of thing, but all of these facilities are close to each other. So it's not like the Mariners are going too far. I think they're all relatively short drives between facilities. Beginning on February 24th at the Padres, a 3-1 win. Seattle did have a 3-run lead at one point, but they had to make things close, and relief pitcher Riley O'Brien was able to come in and lock that game down. Our player of the game is infielder Mike Ford with 2 hits and 2 RBIs. A big towering double off of the center field wall would score 2 runs. I believe it was Eugenio Suarez and Teoscar Hernandez who scored in that one. On February 25th versus the LA Angels, Seattle would lose that one 5-1. Our player of the game would be right fielder Cade Marlowe. Marlowe 1 hit, 1 run, 1 RBI, and 2 at-bats. He would have the Mariners' first homer of spring training, as Marco Gonzalez in his second inning pitched the second inning of the game as well, allowed 4 runs off of a homer as well as a few base hits. So again, I know there was some backlash with Marco there after he allowed those runs, but again, this is something where you'd like to. I imagine that pitchers specifically are working on some new things. Like I believe Marco was working on a slider. So this is something where I'm sure pitchers are working on things, and they might not be putting out their best stuff, their best location, all that sort of thing. Excuse me. So February 26th at the Kansas City Royals, an 8-7 loss, so a really high scoring game. Seattle was down, I believe 5-0 in this one as well, but they were able to claw back to make it 5-5, and they would eventually fall by that 1 run. Our player of the game, right fielder Jarred Kelenic, 2 hits, 2 runs, and 3 RBIs. Jarred, a 2-homer game. I wouldn't say he almost had 3, but the last ball was really hard hit. All of the at-bats he had in this game, all 3 batted balls hit an exit velocity of over 100 miles an hour. So notable there. Something Jarred said once he was pulled out of the game, because with these spring training games, the Mariners and just about any other team out there, they don't really have people out there for the entirety of the game. Something that Kelenic said was that he was happy that he won on all 3 pitches, is what he said. He was able to make the most of those at bats that he got and not waste any pitches, is I believe is what he was going for there. So that's exciting to see. Well, I mean, I was going to say before I get to my player of the week, but Jarred Kelenic is my player of the week for those past 3 games here. In those, he only appeared in 2 games. He had 2 hits, 2 runs, and 3 RBIs in 4 at-bats. So not too bad. Obviously, a small sample size over the past week to go over. But then this is where I was going to speak about it. I've been a believer in Jarred over the last few years. There's all this talk. It's tough because you can tell that the guy is trying and it's an effort thing. If it wasn't an effort thing, no, you can tell it's not a lack of effort. I apologize. I have to word that better. If it was a lack of effort, then I'd be on the, hey, let's get rid of this guy. This guy, why are we giving him more chances sort of thing. Kelnic's still young. He's very athletic. He's got some plus outfield play. He's got some solid power as well, obviously. It's just for him, it's just continuing to be oh my. We're gonna try this again. There we go. Okay, sorry. I went to adjust the camera and it did not like that. I think we're still going here. Okay, we're gonna keep going because it says we're still recording. I apologize for that. But yeah, it's just obviously mental, because there have been multiple times where Jarred's come up to the big league level and he's rocking, or his foot's in a certain place. Just so many swing adjustments and adjustments in the batter's box that seem extra. And it's obviously just a mental thing that he's in his head about it. So everybody said it, and I think even Scott said it. I say everybody, and I talk about like parts of the media and the fan base, and usually I kind of disregard that because I don't necessarily believe in what a lot of those certain folks are saying. But Scott said it, so that just continues how I do it, because this is something I do believe, is that it's all mental. It's just slowing the game down. I know that the coaching staff and the front office, whether that's Dipoto or Hollander or Service, have all talked about how his offseason was good. And they continue to like different ways that he's improved his game. But it's all about putting it all together. So that's what I'm looking for, really, is, continuing to take all of these separate pieces of the puzzle and obviously complete the damn thing with Jarred. So hoping that that's something that we see from him, obviously, sooner rather than later. If you can get that you can keep his glove in the way that he's been out there and just make him a decent hitter. And that'll be a huge, huge addition in terms of contribution to this lineup. So I'm looking forward to Jarred's season, and I really do believe that he can be a contributor on this team. But obviously, we're going into game 4 of 31 in spring training. So there's plenty of time for him to continue to add and improve and work on his game. So you saw it on the bottom there. We had some injury-related things. Tommy La Stella, a few days ago, was reportedly going to be out for a week with some forearm injuries that he was working on. And Teoscar Hernandez missed the game against the Angels. He was originally in the starting lineup, but was pulled an hour or so before with back soreness. And Service thought he might be able to play against the Royals. People are a little concerned they're not seeing Cal Raleigh, considering the length of spring training. Service has said that they're going to try to rest him a bit. And he should be good to go to catch on Tuesday. So expect to see Cal on the 28th there. Outside of that, we don't have any team-related or league news. Outside of that, and there's been the general response to the pitch clock. I've got two sides to it. I understand the pitch clock and where they're going with it, and to attract more people in terms of slowing the game down. So I understand it. I like being at baseball games for a long period of time, not 18 innings in relation to ALDS Game 3 of the past year. But, I get it. I know that there's been a lot of backlash to it. There was the game, I believe it was between Cleveland and Boston, where it ended on a player not getting into the batter's box fast enough. That caused some controversy because it was already a controversial thing. And then that happened, and it just kind of added lighter fluid to an already burning fire. I'll just say that I understand why they're doing it. Some suggestions I've heard are to just make it a little bit longer for those timers. But no, that'll be a really interesting storyline throughout the course of the season to see. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think about that. I'd be happy to talk with it as long as you're civil about it. But yeah, I'm really curious to watch that as it progresses throughout the course of the season, see what happens with it, see what reactions come up of it, see what incidents, quote unquote, come up because of the pitch clock. So the Mariners sit at a 1-2 spring training record. We're not going to keep standings for spring training because there's no playoff or anything. Looking ahead for our Mariners, though, that's a 6-game slate that's a 7-game slate over the next 7 days for our Mariners. So February 27th at the White Sox, a 12:05 p.m. Pacific time start. February 28th versus Cleveland, a 12:05 p.m. Pacific time start. March 1st at the Chicago Cubs, a 12:05 p.m. Pacific time start. We said March 1st. March 2nd versus the San Diego Padres is a 12:10 start, so they're switching it up on us after all those 12:05s. March 3rd at Arizona is a 12:10 start. That game is to be televised on Root Sports. None of the other ones are except that one. Even today's game, Monday, by the time you've seen this, is on radio delay. So when this drops at 4 o'clock, that game is not being put on KJR radio until 7 o'clock p.m., which is a little bit ridiculous. And I'll get the spring training schedule here so you know when these games are and where they're at, and for your viewing pleasure, or listening pleasure rather. But we'll wrap up here. So March 4th versus the Rockies, as I mentioned, is a televised game at 12:10, and then March 5th at the Milwaukee Brewers is a 12:10 p.m. start. Yes, March 5th at the Brewers. In terms, really quickly, we'll wrap up here before we get to Storm. In terms of viewing and listening sort of things, so obviously this game today, as I mentioned, radio delay. The 28th is also radio delay until 7 p.m. March 1st versus the Cubs, radio delay. Same with the game against San Diego on the 2nd. The game on Friday, the 3rd at Arizona, is on radio at KJR 710, and it's not delayed, so that's good. The Sunday game against Milwaukee is on normal radio as well. So, yeah, that's kind of unfortunate because we've got the game on the 4th against Colorado that's on TV. And then after that, we've got a gap until the 10th that's not on Root, and that's against the Reds. I know that some of these games are on MLB Network and MLB TV. So if you've got those, try to check in and see when you can watch those. But, yeah, it's kind of Root and all that. So be sure to follow us also on our socials as well. Because with the games that are not televised by Root Sports, the Mariners and Root Sports are providing us with videos to post that are highlights. Went out in the first game, posted a few of those. Prelander Boroa had a few great strikeouts on, I believe it was Xander Bogaerts and Nelson Cruz. We put a few others out there. Juan Soto made an error for the Mariners to get a run. So, yeah, be sure to follow us on Twitter for that. We will be putting those out when we get them on those days that the games are not televised so that fans can actually see that and get that coverage that they're looking for of their Mariners during spring training.